I'm Rob Skinner, and this is the Rob Skinner Podcast. Join me today as I talk with Nick Galang from Oahu, Hawaii. Nick and his wife Shelley are the interim leaders of the Oahu Church of Christ. They've stepped in for Nick's parents, Saun and Anthony Galang. Listen today as Nick shares what it was like growing up in the Galang household, how he met and married his high school sweetheart, how he got started as a Songleader, how he started and runs his own marketing firm in Hawaii, what it's like to work in his business along with his brother Chris, how his dad's advice to quote-unquote be who you are has guided his choices in life, what gets him up in the morning, the importance of saying yes to God, and finally, a secret surprise in his family. All this and more on the Rob Skinner Podcast. Welcome back to the Rob Skinner Podcast. My goal is to inspire you to live a no-regrets life, make this life count, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. The Climb Conference is coming up November 30th through December 3rd, 2023 in Dallas, Texas. Have you registered yet? You need to be there to get inspired, get tools for growth, listen to amazing speakers, people like Sean Wooten, Kevin Miller, Dave Bliley, Darren Overstreet, and so many others. They're going to help you to grow your ministry, grow yourself, and learn how to overcome roadblocks that you're facing in your life and in your ministry. Finally, you'll just get encouraged being around idealistic, faithful followers of Jesus. So register today at robskinner.com if you haven't already. I'm looking for a leadership couple to plant the Saurita and Green Valley Church in September of 2023. There's been a couple driving all the way up from Green Valley with Karen Kolarek, whom I interviewed a while back. Nearly every Sunday, one or both of them will cry after the lesson and thank me for preaching the word to them. They just got baptized a few weeks ago. It was so awesome. They got baptized in my swimming pool in the back of my house. When I see the passion and desire in their face, I think we need a church for them and people like them. And that's why I'm looking for a leadership couple to plant this beautiful area of Arizona. If you're interested in leading or going, email me at rob@robskinner.com. That's rob@robskinner.com. If you'd like to support the planting with a tax-deductible gift, simply click the link in the bottom of the show notes and select the general fund option. I want to share some good news. A young man just got baptized last weekend. His name was Jackson Guthridge. And he's got a really cool story because we had a campus swap where disciples from the Flagstaff planting came down and helped support our campus ministry over spring break. And it was awesome. Really appreciate it. I mean, we planted that church and then they sent back recruits to help us on our campus. And they're out tabling one day and a young man came up to their table and was interested. And the guys called me that day and said, "Hey, Rob, we found someone who's really seeking." And so I went over, we studied the Bible with him that night. And he was super open. He's been coming to church since that time, and he just got baptized last Saturday. And what was really neat is he said, "Hey, I'd really like to get baptized at Seven Falls here in Tucson." And initially I was hesitant because it's quite a climb to get up there. But he shared his story, and he said, when I was really in a very low point in my life, I went on a hike to Seven Falls just to clear my mind. And I went and I ran into these two ladies and they said, "Hey, you should go talk to those girls up ahead of you on the trail." So he said he went up to the Seven Falls and to the pool, and it's really awesome. It's like 7 waterfalls going into pools of water. They're beautiful, deep pools of water. And so he was sitting there reading a self-help book, and then the 2 women came up to him and said, are you reading the Bible?" And he said, "No, of course not." He was embarrassed that they thought of that. And they said, "Well, we do, and we'd like to study the Bible with you." And so they weren't members of our family of churches, but they showed him some scriptures, and he said that was like a turning point for him. That's when he really started to open up to God and to seeking God. And so when he ran into those disciples on campus a few weeks later, he said, "Okay, maybe this is God working." And so he wanted to get baptized in the same place that was a turning point for him in his walk with God. And so those two women could have been angels. I don't know, but it was pretty awesome. So we took a hike up, and it was quite a climb. I mean, it's like we started at 8 a.m. We didn't get up there until about 11:30, and we didn't get back till about 2. But it was fantastic to see him baptized. He's a sophomore at the University of Arizona, and now he's in Georgia at the campus training program. So God is working, really inspired. Have an awesome day. Nick, welcome to the program.
Hey, Rob. Thanks so much for having me.
This is amazing. I mean, 2 generations. I knew your dad when we were in college together. He was an older brother spiritually. He's just a couple of years older than I am. But it's great to see what God is doing with you, and I look forward to talking to you today.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, he often talks about his Berkeley days, so this is really special. It's great to be here.
How did you become a Christian?
Great question. So, I mean, my journey to Christianity and becoming a disciple starts when I came out of the womb. My parents were on the mission field in Manila, and I was born in Quezon City in St. Luke's Hospital. And my parents told me that the doctor just sort of grabbed my leg and like held me up by my legs, like upside down. And, that's how it started. I was born into the church, and I think I was so fortunate enough to grow up among many different people and have incredible influences in my life, even outside of my parents, that helped me to just see what discipleship looked like. I think it was, you know who Ruben Deanda is,
right?
And he was such an instrumental figure in helping me to become a disciple. So I was baptized on February 26th. In 2015, I was 15 years old, and a freezing cold night in my community pool. But definitely that moment felt like a culmination of things that had spanned my entire lifetime to get to that point. So I think.
So I think I became. Did you say 2015 or 2005?
Oh, 2005. Sorry, not 2015. Correct.
I thought that would make you about 23 right now. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'd be a lot younger. So 2005, and I just calculated it like I think 2 weeks ago, but by the time I was 14, our family had moved 9 times.
Whoa.
So that's sort of how I grew up, right? There was this constant change and a flux, but I think what was so amazing to reflect on was just the constant bedrock and stability that was within our family. And I attribute that so much to the faith of my parents and the love of my parents. I definitely could see that the gospel wasn't something that they just preached on Sundays. Like, that was how they lived in the household. Like, I genuinely can say that with all sincerity. And I think their example was just so fundamental for both me and my younger brother. So, yeah.
Okay, so you're 33 now. How did you meet Shelley?
Shelley and I met as sophomores in high school, and we had both been baptized at that point, and we went on a double date. And it's a funny story because we weren't each other's dates. We were the other person. We were on a date with somebody else, essentially. So we go on this date. We don't see each other for another like a year and a half. And I come up to her one day at some all church-wide, event. And I go, "Shelley, what's up? It's so good to see you." And she just gives me this look, and she says, who are you?" And yeah, like she totally forgot who I was. Like, we spent like 4 or 5 hours together on this double date, right? We weren't each other's date, but we still spent time together. And her defense is that I had way different hair and I looked a lot different, yada, yada, yada. But that kind of like piqued my interest a little bit. I was like, what? Who is this girl? And so from that point, I started to just sort of take an interest into her, I'd say. And lo and behold, we started dating senior year of high school, dated all the way through college. And And then we got married in 2014. So yeah, man, that is how we met.
Okay, so you were 24 when you got married?
So I'm 31 now.
Oh,
So
you're
I'm
31.
31.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think I was 21 or 22 when I got married.
Okay, so you so you guys have been married. So you guys dated a long time.
Yeah. I think like 5 or 6 years almost, something like that.
Okay. And then you guys have been married for, let's see, 11 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
9
Oh
years.
man, that's even weird to think about.
Yeah. What was it like growing up in the Galang household?
Yeah. Um, like I said, we moved a lot. So I was constantly used to moving like every 3 or 4 years. I sort of had this internal clock in me. Um, and so that was sort of always in the back of my mind. And I'm going to get to the Galang household in a second, but I think this background's helpful. Like, I knew we met so many people across so many different churches. And I think a part of being a minister's kid is that you just, especially being the oldest of a minister's kid, you sort of have this unspoken expectation to be the golden child or to be the next whatever it is.
Right.
And so, I grew up um, being asked to give warm hugs and to be loving, and other people would often heap different expectations on us. Like when I was 4 years old, we went to a conference in Arizona and we had this huge dinner with all these ministers. It was like a ministers only conference or whatever in the 90s. And I remember one of the ministers coming up to me with a microphone, handing me the microphone and asking me to pray. And before he did that, pray for this like meal for the entire group, a couple hundred people. And I was 4 years old, and he introduced me as, "Hey guys, everybody, this is Nick Galang, a future minister." And so I just remember that, you know what I mean? And obviously it stuck with me for all of those years. And so now that sort of is in the back of my head growing up. And, for better or for worse, you just receive that sort of expectation or that pressure growing up in the church. And I think what I appreciate about my family is that it was such a calm, like peaceful, stable, loving, caring environment that I grew up in. And I think I took that for granted until I married Shelley, and she, let me know of her background and others' background. She's like, "Nick, you don't get it. Like, this is not normal. This is really not normal." But that was normal for me. And so I think I just say that because my parents are very soft-hearted. I would wake up and remember my parents being up, having their quiet times, reading their Bibles, and I'd go, "Wow, like it's like, I don't know how early it is right now, but dad's at the kitchen table, mom's praying." It was just peaceful. There was just this spirit of peace, which was really cool.
That's awesome. Your dad has always struck me as imperturbable, very peaceful, quiet, soft-spoken, and a man of few words. So I can only imagine what that'd be like being raised in that household.
Totally. That word is, what was that word?
Imperturbable.
Imperturbable. I'm going to have to take that one and put it in my vocabulary. But that is very accurate, very true about him.
Yeah. But what I find interesting about you, Nick, is that you are a man of many interests. I mean, you're great at music. You're a song leader. I think you led songs at the 2012 Mountain of the Lord conference. I think I saw you up on stage there. I mean, you were 20, I guess, at that time in front of 20,000 people. That's a lot of pressure there. But also, you're an entrepreneur. You're a business owner. How did you get interested in starting your own business? I have that spirit in me, like starting new things, entrepreneurialism. How'd you get interested?
That's a great question. So it's funny because I think this desire or starting a business was really born out of how I grew up. Okay. So I think I grew up seeing a lot of needs and being aware of a lot of needs just naturally. Um, and so, interestingly enough, when I moved here to Oahu, um, they were trying to just kind of get with the times and grow their digital presence, their online presence. So they wanted a website. And lo and behold, I had come from the Orange County campus ministry where Stuart Maines was my campus minister for many, many years. And I attribute him to the reason that I started doing things like graphic design and social media content and um, just sort of doing that, like taking an interest in the digital realm in that way. And so I was doing that, whether it was for keynote slides, like lyrics. We had built websites together in college. And so there was a need. I saw a need, and I don't necessarily think I'm incredibly talented in any sort of way. I have to work hard in a lot of areas that I just want to work hard in and be excellent in. But I saw a need to help the church in this way, and I didn't see anybody else saying, "I'll do it." And so I said, "I'll do it." And in 2012, 2013, built the website. This is the first one in a while. I filmed a video for the church, just because I just wanted to make it good, like this is the church, and I really wanted to represent the church super well and make it excellent for God. And so I just said yes. And like that concept of just saying yes to things, like saying yes to God, it's sort of like well, someone's got to do it, right? Like someone's got to step up to the plate. It's not like I necessarily have wanted these things in my life. I do feel like I've been led there by being willing, you might say. So that opening actually led me to more openings, more opportunities to build websites for people outside of the church. And they go, "Hey, Nick, I'll pay you a little bit of money." I'm like, I'm 20, 21 years old, and I'm going, sure. You know what I mean? Like, I need money. Like, I'm on my own right now, and blah, blah, blah. Absolutely. And so I built website after website after website, got better at it. And then people were like, "Hey, do you actually do this too? What about this? Can you do this and this and this?" And I said, "Well, I can learn." And so I learned. I learned how to do this and that. And all of a sudden, maybe not all of a sudden, but eventually it turned into like a full-fledged marketing firm where I had 4 or 5 employees working under me, some physical and some remote. And then now I'm managing like an entire company with an office in downtown, like Honolulu.
What?
And yeah, like it just sort of turned into what it turned into. And that journey really just started with a simple yes, I think.
Okay, so let's back it up a little bit. So you not only have your own online marketing company, but you have a brick and mortar company downtown Oahu?
Yes. So we did. And we closed that office down, unfortunately, during COVID, because it was just impossible to do anything during COVID, and there was no need for an office. And so we shut that down, and now all of us are just remote. We just work remotely now. But I did, and I decorated it, and it was so a little trendy, and it was really cool. And like I just like I have dreams of now doing something like that again, but for the church, where we can film content, we can, just do all this super cool stuff. But it was such a great experience, man. I'll tell you that.
That's awesome. So so you're still just running your marketing company. It's all folded into one. And and you also work with your brother Chris, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, how does that work? I mean, what's it like working with a family member?
Yeah. Well, I have experience with that in a number of ways. I think it's great, man. I think it depends on the dynamic, though. I think because our family has a dynamic of like a fairly easygoing dynamic that is pensioned on excellence, like it sort of just drives itself. Chris needs zero micromanagement, and he essentially helps to run the company now because I'm full-time in the ministry, right? I've got all these other responsibilities, and he is essentially the face of the company. He meets with all of our clients. They love him. Oh my gosh. Like they love him. Like we get with a lot of like um successful businesses on the island, I'll say, and they just cannot stop raving about Chris, right? Like he's just a good dude. Like he has a great presence. He's responsible. He gets things done. It's super simple for me, and that takes a load off of my shoulders as well, because he understands my situation. You know, we're not just coworkers, we're friends. We share life together. He's my best friend. He lives one street over from I do. And so, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a unicorn type of thing, right? Like not everyone can work with their family members, but I think that his assertiveness in his own life to take responsibility, to be self-motivated, um, to do things excellently has really made a difference in just our dynamic, in our working dynamic. So
Wow.
it's amazing. I love working with him.
Okay, so what's the name of your company if someone wanted to Google you and find out what you're doing?
The company is called The Creative Co. or The Creative Company. Sort of an all-in-one marketing firm.
And if they type that in, it would come up on the website?
Yeah.
Okay. And
absolutely.
So you're like the CEO and Chris is the COO? How does it,
Yes.
how have you got it structured?
That's exactly it. I'm the CEO and he's the COO.
Wow. Are your parents at all involved in this?
They're not actually. I think if I could share a little bit about how they like sort of like how that came to be. Well, they've always encouraged us to be ourselves and to do what we want to do and to follow our passions. Like I played tennis, me and Chris played tennis growing up. Then he branched out into soccer. And then I actually started a clothing line not too long ago. And it was pretty successful. We had our clothes in a bunch of stores here on the island, and we had clothes on some shops on the mainland. And it got too busy for me, and it was sort of a grind, and it morphed into my marketing firm eventually. But my parents were always like just so encouraging, you know. And I was scared to bring it up with them, right? Like I want to pursue this, but I know, you know, we're church folks, right? Like the church is just everything for us. And so I was scared to bring that up. Like I kind of want to pursue this. Like I feel like I want to pursue this passion. But the answer has always been go for it. Like that's so cool. Like I'd love to see how this pans out. I think you can totally do it. Like it's just like this overwhelming amount of encouragement that empowers me and my brother to just be who we want to be. And so, man, yeah, you're making me want to give my parents a hug right now.
So I recently saw you at a Pacific Southwest church leaders meeting, and I noticed you're wearing some pretty snazzy clothes. Now, are those clothes that you've designed from your own company or not?
No, those aren't. I do have some floating around and people will wear them. And I'll see them once in a while. But those are some different clothing.
Now, I remember your dad telling me at one time, because, you know, we always talk about our kids and what they're doing. And I think he was saying that Nick was taking old clothes and resending or refurbishing them, buying and selling. Is that what you were referring to?
So that in the beginning, I would do something like that. But actually, what I think you're mentioning is actually what my brother does. So I have multiple businesses and side hustles, and so does he. So one of his main things is buying and reselling. So he'll take, you know, one man's trash is another man's treasure sort of vibe.
Right.
And he'll go to Goodwill and he'll go to the boxes and the donations at Goodwill. And it's called sourcing. And he'll take these clothes, he'll clean them up. He'll find things like Lululemon. He'll find things that are, you know, like valuable to other people. And then he'll sell it. He'll sell it at pretty much market price. And I'll tell you right now, he makes a lot of good money doing that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. Okay. I like how creative you are. So it's not just one thing. You're doing all sorts of different things. You've got like a mind that's you're kind of roving around trying different things.
Yeah. Yeah. I love experimenting. I was thinking about it the other day that for better or for worse, I love to experiment, and I'm okay with failure. Like for
Right.
our AV system, I just implemented something slightly new. And one of the guys who helps me to do AV for the church, he was, Nick, can we just keep it the same? Like, I just want it to be the same. And in my mind, I'm like, no, dude, I don't want it to be the same. I want it to be better. I want it to be greater. I want this to be more excellent and more efficient so that at the end of the day, it's better for everybody. But some things are good, some things are bad, and we learn and we move. So yeah.
Another area I want to talk a little bit about is music. You're a song leader and a recognized kingdom song leader for sure. How'd you get into that? How'd you develop your aptitude for music?
Oh man. So believe it or not, my dad was a musician when he was a kid.
What?
If you can just
Can't see
picture
it. Nope.
So my grandparents, so his mom and dad, when they would have people over as guests, they would have Anthony play the classical guitar for them. And he would pluck on the nylon strings and play for them, either while they were in conversation or something like that. So my dad grew up pretty musical.
Wow.
And my parents, neither of them are like singers, but I listen to them, and ministers, man, they belt out the songs. They go hard, right? And so I'd be standing next to Dad and I would hear him, it'd be loud. And he could always hold a tune. He was always in tune. I think what got me into it was, again, out of necessity. I didn't ask for it. I didn't desire for it necessarily. Ruben, during like a devotional for the teens, he was like, hey, Nick, we want to sing some songs in the beginning. Can you lead songs? And I must have been a junior, senior in high school. And I was so nervous, but I was like, sure, man, if there's no one else who can do it, I'll do it. I got you. So I just said yes. And I remember practicing, like, whose side are you fighting on? Like 15 times for like 30 minutes before, just that one song, before leading that song for the first time. I was so nervous and so like into myself. But that's how it started. And then ever since then, I led music for the campus ministry, and I guess that carried over to all the other places I've been. So yeah.
It reminds me of people, what you're talking about. You're saying a lot of the talents that you've developed and even the work that you've been doing, it sprang from necessity within the church environment, whether it's, you're building a website or whether it's singing. It reminds me of like Beyonce. I know she grew up going to church, singing songs in church. Aretha Franklin, a lot of the famous blues and soul singer, they grew up having that platform every Sunday. I mean, it's a great opportunity to develop your skills in a real safe environment.
Yeah.
But it's powerful. And I've seen that actually happen. There was a woman who we converted in Japan, and she would sing for us at church on Sunday, and she became pretty popular in Japan as a professional singer. But wow. I mean, it's a great venue and a great opportunity to develop those skills. But yeah. Let's go forward here a little bit. How'd you step into the leadership of the Oahu Church?
Well, it might be a recurring theme here, but somewhat out of necessity. So my parents have been doing ministry for 38 years full time. And again, we've moved multiple times, and they've never had like a break or real break. And sometimes it's easy. You go on vacation, but it's not really a vacation. I mean, partly vacation, but you're doing work there, here and there. And I think after 38 years, it was healthy and needed for them to choose rest. And so Shelley and I have been full-time in the ministry since 2015, right? So 8 years or so. And we just happen to be the most senior staff outside of Anthony and Saun. And so they presented us with this possibility. I think it was last year, and we've been talking through a lot. So my dad is a man of processes, right? And he includes people, and he's an unhurried guy. I'll tell you that, which is so cool. Now that I'm thinking about it, like, he's unhurried. And sometimes, as his son, I go, man, Dad, like, speed it up a little bit, like, whatever. But in his unhurried way, many people were involved in the conversations of what a sabbatical could look like for the church, a sabbatical policy. We've never had one before. And so let's just involve as many people as we can to really come up with something that pleases God. And so, yeah, I mean, we just said, sure, we'll be the point of contact. That's how it's being described, right? We are the points of contact for the church. And I do want to bring attention to that, because it's so much less about us being the people and more about having such an amazing team around us. Like I'll say that right now, we have an amazing campus ministry couple. We have two amazing elder couples. We have a ministry advisory group. We have the board of directors as well, who is awesome. And not to mention the just the plethora of incredible lay leaders and servants in the church. I mean, bro, like, if I'm honest, like, the church was just set up. It was so set up for where it is right now. So they're on sabbatical right now, and it's been mid-April. So it's been almost a month. And from what I can tell, it's going well. I mean, hopefully, right? Nothing crazy, but that's just attributed. I think that's what is that called? That it speaks a lot to the health of the church. Just the fact that, yeah, the leaders can go, but the church will still be where it is and grow. So yeah.
Wow. That would, I think, paralyze a lot of people, having to step into your parents' shoes, so to speak. That's pretty big shoes to fill. How do you deal with that? I mean, how do you deal with that mentally? The scrutiny, the pressure. Oh, I don't think Anthony would do it that way, or maybe they don't say that. How do you deal with the pressure?
Yeah, it's a good question. I know it can feel like there are big shoes to fill. But for me, I'm trying to think about it as the way my parents have always coached and encouraged me in life, is to be who I am and not try to fit in someone else's shoes. I think that takes so much pressure off of me, because it's so much more about embracing my own unique role in this all, and staying true to who I am and who God has called me to be. I can tell you this, man. I have never prayed more than I have in this season of my life ever. Like I've communicated that with people, to the church, to my wife. There was the Thursday night. I don't know why I remember. It was a Thursday night, and I was just in prayer all day, 24/7. Like, if I wasn't having a conversation with somebody or whatever, like I was just constantly in prayer. And I remember getting to our couch, and I just like collapsed on our couch on my back, and I wasn't able to get up. And I was like, Shelley, I don't think I can get up right now. And she's like, what's going on? And I was like, I've been in prayer this whole, I was sort of like, I was exhausted, because I was just pouring my heart out and, trying to speak with God. I think I've come to realize that I can do nothing outside of the power of Jesus Christ. Wow. So much more, right? Like I cannot do anything on my own. For all the talents that God has given me, like, nothing happens without the movement of the Spirit of God in all of this. The Spirit leads the church in every step that we take, and it's His wisdom that guides us. So again, I think the pressure is totally dispersed, however you want to call it, amongst many people. Because
what's the response been like from the congregation? Have they been supportive? How's it gone?
Oh, super supportive, man. I think I have had no problem asking people to help out and serve, and I think that we couldn't have asked for better members who have just been so vocally supportive, as well as just physically doing things as well. But it's just overwhelming support from my end.
So let me ask you this: why did you decide to go in the ministry in 2015? You've got this, these side hustles that probably could support you just on their own. Why ministry?
That's a good question. Because I think at the end of the day, like, everything matters so little compared to knowing Christ and helping others know Christ. Like, like everything is just sort of icing on the cake. And perhaps for the sake of like surviving on one of the most expensive places to live on planet Earth, I need to do a side hustle, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like,
sure.
there's a necessity to it, a partial necessity to it. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, my passion is people. I think about Paul and how he writes in Philippians 3, like, but whatever were to my gain, I consider them a loss because of the sake of knowing Christ, because of whom, through whom I've lost all things. Everything else is garbage,
right,
compared to Jesus. And that's just how it is. Like, it doesn't matter how much money you make, doesn't matter how successful you are in the world's eyes, or how well you can do things. It's about knowing Jesus. And so I think that passion drove me to pursuing a career, I guess I'd say, doing what I love the most. And it is ministry. It is the work of the ministry. It is preaching and teaching the gospel. It's making disciples. It's shepherding. It's all of that, man. So yeah.
That's awesome. What gets you up in the morning? You've got a full plate now. You've got a family, you've got a wife, and you've got your businesses that you probably have to monitor from time to time, and you've got a church now. So what keeps you motivated? What drives you?
A part of what helps to drive me nowadays is my time with God every day. And it sounds so, I don't know, that might sound a certain way, but what I do, I like to run. So I run almost every day, but I like to get up early while it's still like not super hot during the day. And it takes about 5 minutes, man. Like, I run to this like bike path that's right on the water. And I just run that, and I run I run for about an hour. And I will run like this as I'm praying
with your hands
while
up.
I'm running. Yeah. I'll definitely do that. Sometimes I go like this. I don't know. People may think I'm crazy. People are like, dude, who is this guy early in the morning? I don't know what this guy's doing. Sometimes I'll be listening to spiritual books, right? I'll listen to podcasts, but it's that time in the morning that I have with God that just I spend it in silence and solitude. Pretty much. And it's just, I can't say much because I'm running.
Right.
So oftentimes I'll just look and I'll absorb, I'll smell, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll just be there. And that sort of helps me to ground like the whole day in that moment.
Wow.
And I do that, and I go, man, okay, thank you, God. Let's do this. And so that pumps me up. There's probably like a endorphin thing going on too, right?
Of course there is.
But I feel like it's just helpful. It's helpful for me. I think a part of it as well is I do have this penchant to work, for better or worse. I think there's something about setting goals, making plans, and seeing them come to fruition that gives me a sense of accomplishment. And I definitely have struggled with my sense of self-worth being tied to my productivity, right? But I think more and more, like, the more responsibility I get, the more I just have to like throw it on to God,
right?
The more I just have to throw it on to God, or else I'm going to go crazy,
right?
Or else I'm just, I'm going to start working off of my own human wisdom or my flesh, and I'm going to get confident in that and think that I've got that. But the more that I just throw everything onto God, man, like that pumps me up, that drives me. And that makes me understand and know that I can have a full schedule. I can have a busy life, but it can be totally unhurried. Like, it can be totally content and at peace. So, yeah.
Does Shelley feel the same way? How do you make sure that you're keeping pace, like you're walking side by side, not dragging your wife along. How do you create the optimal family dynamic?
That's a good question, and I'm figuring that out as we speak. So so for people who are listening, we are expecting our first child, and we're so excited about that.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
November. Thank you. And so I'm I'm learning what it's like to be a dad. She's like 14, almost 14 weeks pregnant now. And Shelley is absolutely incredible. She's over the top incredible. I have to keep up with her, if I'm honest. She's so centered. She's so calm, and she's so like, it was so funny. Like one time we were eating sushi, and I'm going to speak to her mentality and how she operates. We were eating sushi, and she started eating, just like as soon as she got the sushi. And I said, hey, are we not going to pray for this meal right now? And she looks up at me, just gives me that look, and she says, my life is a prayer. And that's just how she operates. I kid you not, man. Like she is just so like that. And it calls me so much higher as a husband and as a future dad, because I'm so thankful. I know that she's ahead, man. She's so organized and on top of things. So it's very much the opposite, if I'm honest. I'm completely honest. I'm not dragging her. Like I get called higher by her. 100%.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Nick, what advice would you give to a person who wants to make this life count?
To say yes to God, and to say yes to the Spirit, to say yes to the unexpected, to say yes to the challenging, to say yes to things that'll take you out of your comfort zone. I think throughout my life, the most profound growth and most meaningful experiences that I've had have come from saying yes. It's not about blindly agreeing to like everything. Okay. Obviously there are boundaries, but I think when we're open to the paths that God will take us down, there's freedom in that, right? Like there's freedom in not having control. There's freedom in being led. And so saying yes is just like often just surrendering control and trusting in the God who is greater than me in his transformative and powerful ways. So I would say yes.
That's awesome.
Say yes, man.
It's inspiring to me how you're young and doing great things for God in a variety of different fields: music, business, ministry. Now you're building family, and you're doing it well. It reminds me of Joseph and David, and the Lord gave him success in everything he did because he was with him. And you can tell that God is with you, your family, and I just want to wish you all the best going forward, Nick.
Oh, thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. Here's how you can help support the program. First of all, hit the subscribe button and let your friends know about the program. Secondly, read and review one of my books, either How to Plant and Grow a Church or Courage, How to Make This Life Count. I've just been reading through this in my Young Guns, Young Leadership group. We've been reading through it together and discussing it, and it's fun. It's really inspiring, and I hope you'll take some time to read it and review it. You can find both of those books on Amazon.com. Thirdly, support the program financially by clicking the link in the show notes and selecting the general fund. Your tax-deductible gift will help me to multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Because my goal is to inspire you to make this life count, live a no-regrets life, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Have a great day, and make this life count.